Good morning, everybody. This is Lancaster Woodturners Thursday morning coffee hour number 73 on October 14th, 2021. And I'm seeing 17 live screens, two of them with two guys on them. And there's nobody in the room but me and Barry, so he's sitting here with me at the control desk. Before we start going around the room, I have several announcements I want to make. One is, just in case any of you have not noticed, AAW is having a two-day fundamentals of wood turning event this coming weekend with some very good teachers. It's $45 for members and I think $65 for non-members. So anyone who's a beginning wood turner or an intermediate wood turner who wants a real brush up on skills with some superb teachers, I would look into that if I was you. Very interesting thing. Please silence your phone so they don't ring on us. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to say, for those of you in other clubs, especially who are wrestling with this video problem, after trying every workaround I could think of, I have the A10 Mini back in the circuit to switch video cameras and microphones. What enabled me to do that was realizing that getting down to only two microphones or two microphone systems. I was using three, and I don't need three because these little SoundTech mics, these can daisy chain together, and I have one on my desk, and there's two out there in the room that can bring up the guys who are in the room. So that reduced the number of microphones. The A10 can handle two. And I also realized that all of the camcorders are through the A10, and the only other camera is the one up here that I'm looking at, and that's easy enough to switch to. So the setup got simplified, and by simplifying it, the A10 Mini came back into play, and I'm thinking it's a very good device. And it's working very well in this setup now. So that's where we're at with the setup, and that's been, we've been screwing around with this for a year, so it's been a while getting it worked out. But this thing allows me to switch cameras very, very nicely, and also microphones very nicely. I don't have the reflexes yet, but I'm getting there. Any questions or comments on that from anybody who's wrestling with it for a club?
Hey, John, do you plug them both into the back of the Mini, the A10?
I have 3 camcorders and 2 mic systems plugged into the A10. Yeah.
Okay.
And it allows me to switch between them very nicely. I still have to use the video menu in Zoom to get the camera I'm looking at. It's not one of those cameras. It's a little camcorder, webcam that's just mounted on this monitor.
Yeah, we have one of those too.
Yeah, so I go to the little stop video cart and I switch to Blackmagic Design. Now there's the mic that's looking at the show and tell table, which I could spotlight, and then I can switch to the mic that looks down in the lathe, which is not adjusted, and the mic that looks back at the room, or the camera rather, that looks back at the room. So all of that is working pretty well today.
Did you have to get any special cables to plug those in, or did they have the correct plug to go into the Mini?
The only issue with it is you got to get down to, it plugs in full size HDMI, so you're going to have adapters from mini HDMI that comes out of the cameras to regular HDMI that goes into the Mini. You can get cables. You can get cables one with those two ends on them, and you can also get an adapter. It's easy.
Yeah, not that part. I'm talking about the sound, the audio.
Sound is all audio. Is all TRS audio jacks. Little.
Okay.
Yeah, regular TRS audio jacks. I had one in my hand a minute ago.
Very good.
The ATEM and our mic, all of our mics operate on that, so that works pretty good.
Good.
John, yeah, why didn't you put your little camera that you're using in it as well?
Because it's a USB camera, and the A10 doesn't take USB camera. Here's the plug. It's a TRS tip ring shank. Yeah, as opposed to TRRS, which is tip ring shank. Standard audio. And it seems to be no limit on the length of audio cable that I can put on these little SoundTech mics. And if anybody's paying attention, the SoundTech mics are $35 each, so they're really a deal. They seem to have a radius of 15 feet or so. So with 3 of them here, just daisy chained together, I'm talking into the one on the desk, and there's 2 more out there that will pick up anybody in the room if there were anybody in the room. It's just me and Barry here today. So that all works pretty good. If you have mics that have the big jacks, the large old style 1/4-inch jacks, you can get an adapter for those as well. So that's I feel that we've gone really around the bend on this and trying everything, and we're back to a pretty straight up setup that seems to be working well enough. I'm now writing on an owner's manual, operator's manual, so we can start to teach other guys. And in that regard, I will just to let you know, I will soon be offering 1 hour short courses in how to run this board and inviting people to participate from local guys, so we can get more people than me that know how to run this, so I can go away and the meeting doesn't have to end. Okay,
John, when you write that manual, you know, there's a whole segment of the market that would really use that. Churches are trying to figure out Zoom along with live services, and nobody knows quite how to do it. And if you have experience and wrote a manual, there ought to be a way to get it around, because that would be valuable information.
I don't know, John. Do you know a publisher, perhaps?
All of these sorts of things start to look, oh, you know, you ought to go into business here and consult with people. And you know what? That's about the last thing I'm going to do.
Just put it up on the web. Don't bother publishing it on paper.
Yeah, free advice. We got lots of that.
How did you retire?
That's the point. Staying retired here. That's what. Who's got stuff they want to show us today? I know that Kai has a little slideshow, and I have a little 5-minute video. Bowman's got something. Barry's got some stuff in the room. How about some more of you guys? What else we got? Brubaker? Who else? Don't all be shy. Jeff Carroll, Dave Delo. Oh yeah, I meant to mention this because I'm and Duxbury. I'm wanting to train you guys. You can get my attention by waving your hand, but you can get it even better if you go down to the bottom of your screen somewhere and you find the reactions tab and you click raise hand. Raise hand brings your picture to the top of my screen, so I can't miss that you got your hand raised, and it's a good way to get yourself in line to ask a question or make a comment without having to jump in and cut somebody off. Let me do that part, and like that. So it's a more mannerly way to use Zoom that we sort of are slowly learning, and I'm slowly trying to accustom you guys to. Okay, who wants to go first here? I was actually going to start off with Kai because he's got a good slideshow. You ready, Kai?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Can you see that now?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay. I played a little bit around with texturing tools, and the first one here is the decorating elf. I had a look at the recordings of your monthly club meetings, and I think 2 months ago there was a club meeting where someone demonstrated how to use the decorating elf as well. So that is another example here, using it on a spinning top. And as you have to apply some pressure to get the texture into the spinning top surface, I turn the top in a way that I do the top of the spinning top first, and then the lower part or the point of the spinning top second. Because otherwise, if you're getting too thin on the other side and you try to do texture, it might break. So that works well. In this case, I put some spirit stain onto the wood after doing the texturing. And I wasn't concerned with spirit stain getting into the texture, because I wanted to put some liming wax, so it's just white wax, into the texture anyway. And then to do the point, I drilled a hole in a little block that you can see on the right-hand side, rounded the corners a bit so that I don't get an impression on the stem of the top. When I push it in, I turned the outside, and then I used some black felt tip pen, Tombow pen, to give it this color. I could have used other.
How hard do you have to press to make that texturing tool work?
Difficult to explain, but you have to apply some pressure. And if you imagine this stem here being on the other side, and then you do the texturing, it will break. Also, it's better accessible from this side than from the other side. If you have the stem on the spindle stock side of the lathe, then you have to get thinner, otherwise you cannot reach onto the top with your texturing tool.
Well,
So
more to the point is, how do you, those are very controlled texturing marks. Is that hard to do, or does the tool give that to you?
that does the tool gives it to you, and it's very easy to do. I have a very short video I can show in a minute that shows how the process works. It's really easy. Yeah. Okay.
Does it work best on end grain, or is it limited to end grain?
They say you can use the decorating elf on end grain and side grain, but if you want to use it on side grain, it should be a hard wood. Softwood won't work in side grain, and even in end grain, hardwood works better. And this is end grain here. So end grain, I think, is the best, but it also works in side grain. The texturing tool, like the decorating elf does, there's a spiraling tool by Sorby that I will show as well that also works in end grain and side grain. Only the Chatter tool is designed for end grain only, so you cannot use that on side grain.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, just go on a little bit. So that's the finished top with the liming wax applied. I forgot to say, before I applied the liming wax, I also put some sanding sealer on the spirit stain, because you handle or touch the stem of the spinning top, and you don't want the stain to rub on your fingers or leave pigments on your fingers. So it's good to seal it first, and then I put in the liming wax. Yeah. Okay, and that's the top spinning, so it worked as well. And here is a little video. I hope this is going to work. Don't know whether you can see that in the bottom right corner. There is an article by John Lucas in the latest issue of American Woodturner, and he describes how to make a decorating elf yourself. You can buy the tool. It's made by Henry Taylor, or sold by Henry Taylor. But as I said, in the American Woodturner, there is an article how to make your own. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, you can hear when you get towards the middle, the bit slows down because the speed is lower in the middle and higher on the outside of the workpiece. That's what it looks like. It's not the spinning top, it's another workpiece. I didn't film making the spinning top, unfortunately. And then we use these natural brittle brushes to clean off some fibers that were kind of torn out by the tool, maybe. So you shouldn't sand it, because sanding destroys the texture. And then I use the Tombow marker held quite flat, and then you can see the texture better. So it's a very quick and easy process that gives you a nice texture. If you look at ornamental turners, they have to do much more work to get a texture like that than using this decorating elf. The drawback is it's not easily repeatable, because the angle of the tool matters, the speed matters. So it's difficult to get the same texture again. Okay.
Is that a commercial tool you're using?
Yeah, it's a texturing elf, a decorating elf, sorry, made by Henry Taylor.
Okay. That's not
Is Henry Taylor sold in the United States? Henry Taylor tools?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. But as I said, you can make it yourself as well. There's an article in the American Woodturner. Okay, so, oh no, sorry, I didn't want to start that again. I want to have my next transparency. Just have to move that a little bit and then see. Oh, why does that want to start again? I want to go on. Okay, then I have a tool that was not shown in your monthly club meeting. It's the spiraling tool. Actually, a G is missing there, not a spiralin, but spiraling tool. And that's the video to go with it. It's a tooth wheel. It's flat on one side and beveled on this side, so you can get a lot of different textures from it. I've only just started playing around with it, so. And it actually produces some chips. It's not just kind of pressing into the wood. It cuts a little bit of the wood as well. So, and the next step again is to clean it. I wanted to mark some rings that I wanted to cut out there. But in the end, it turned out that I made my lines too small and I couldn't see them when the piece was turning. So I just guessed where I had to put them. Yeah. And if you hear a light rattling sound when you push your pencil onto the wood, you know you're not in the right position. Okay, cleaning again. And now I use the point tool to define the rings. Just check again. So the next step then again is coloring. And I use the Tombow markers again for coloring. There are other manufacturers who do this kind of shape of the tip as well, meanwhile, that are cheaper on the market. But Tombow works well, and I've tried cheaper ones, but then sometimes the tip doesn't last very long, or they are not filled as much as the Tombow markers are filled, or pens are filled. So they are pretty good. So that's what you get.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I'll put some more color on it, do the rings that are without color as well. And also the middle one. This tip shape is also nice to black rings, or to blacken the grooves that I cut earlier on.
Very nice, Kai.
You can still see a little bit of tear out at the edge of the ring here, but the actual size is 2 inches. So if you hold it in your hand and look at it, you don't see it. And I guess it doesn't matter if it's the top of a spinning top.
Kai, that little pointing tool, is that something that you bought or that you made?
Henry Taylor sells the tool as well. I think they also call it a point tool, but I made it myself. just by grinding some round high-speed steel rod to a point with 3 sides.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got one more. No, just go to the next. Yes, no, and that's very quick. The same tool, just another pattern to show what you can do with the tool. The speed is at around 800 RPM. And the totally different pattern and really, really quickly done. I put some color on this one as well. Just takes a few seconds. And then you can see the see it better. Okay, that's it. Right. Any more questions concerning the tools?
Kai, you call it a micro tool. I have the earlier version of this. Well, actually, I gave it to my son. The earlier version of this Sorby tool, but it's quite large. Is this thing a newer one and smaller?
I think it might be a bit newer, and it has got smaller wheels than the large one, and it is not as expensive as the large one. In Germany, the small one is around, I think, 70, 80 euros. Would be nearly the same in dollars, and the big one, the whole set, is $225 or something, or euros. And as I do only small things like spinning tops or some kind of box tops, or the top of a turned box or so, you can do that as an inlay, put it in there, or some kind of jewelry things for kids or so. When demonstrating, that's quite nice because they can push the tool into the wood themselves, and then they can see what pattern they get, and then they can take it away and wear it around their neck. So I only need the smaller version, so that's why I bought this. With a larger version, you can do other things as well. This is always working on a flat or slightly rounded surface, preferably in end grain. And with the larger version, you can actually do spirals and long grain. So by having a cylinder and then moving the tool along the cylinder in when it's spinning, when the workpiece is spinning, and you get different effects. And there's also kind of a holder that keeps the tool at the same angle when you put it onto your tool rest that comes with the set. But I haven't tried that yet. So maybe when I try it, I can show it.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Kai?
I really like the brush that Kai uses. That's a pig bristle brush, and it's fabulous for all kinds of texturing. Just takes the flakes out of it. It's stiff as all get out. You can really lean on it. And the other thing on the decorating elf, I use Dremel tool cutters in it. And Lord, you can go nuts with that. But like you said originally, nothing predictable. It's like playing golf. You think you know how to do it, and you get out there, and the next one goes right out the window.
Amen.
Well,
Anyway.
it's a little bit like wood turning sometimes too, you know.
You
Any
got
more
it.
questions? Questions for Kai? Okay, thank you, Kai. That was interesting. And
Thanks,
helpful.
Kai.
You're welcome.
Let's move on. Let's see. Dave Delo has got his hand up first. So Dave, you're on next.
Hi. A couple of weeks ago, I turned this crotch piece, and it's my mystery wood. I think it's, I thought it was cherry when I was first starting because the bark and in the way it looked on the inside, but now I kind of think it's a beech. But anyway, a once turned bowl 2 weeks ago, put it in the bag for 5 days and then let it air dry for 5 days and then did the finishing. So this was done just 2 weeks ago, completely dry, about a little less than 3/16 on the bottom, a little bit less than an 1/8 inch on the top, but it's warped up very nicely and giving me a nice little heart-shaped crotch bowl there.
All right, nice work.
Not a lot of flame, but it works out, and it does. I didn't do anything to the foot. I'm going to let it just sit crooked like that, and it's come out pretty decent. I like it.
Now, did you do that? Was that twice turned? Did you say, or did you turn it?
No,
all
it's a once turned bowl. This was turned 2 weeks ago today.
Perfect. Did you do anything to dry it, like microwave or anything like that?
No, it's thin enough that I put it in a bag for 4 or 5 days and then let it air dry for 4 or 5 days, and then I sanded it and finished it off, buffed it up this morning.
And is there any finish on it besides wax?
There's walnut oil on it. Okay.
All right.
Walnut oil, and this was a friend said he had some walnut, and his power company had just come through, and he said, "You want any of it?" And I said, "Okay, well, I'll come up and get it." But it was all small branches and stuff. But he had a few of these pieces around. I don't know if you could tell. It looked like a cherry when I first looked at it, but now that it's dried a little bit, it doesn't have that cherry bark feel or black cherry color to it. So I'm going to call it mystery wood, but I may use this one. I'm going to do a demo at the local Woodcraft next week for their anniversary sale. I may use this other side for they want to do a wet wood demo, so I may use this piece.
It looks pretty much like cherry to me. Why do you say it's not cherry?
Well, just by the green color of this bark here, kind of makes it look more like a beech color. But yeah, I really don't know, and in a way, don't care what it is.
Sure.
It turned very nicely.
Yeah,
Looks a lot like cherry to me.
Yeah. I kind of it's got it's a little bit a lighter color for the piece that I've done, but
Let it sit in the light for a couple of weeks. It'll be dark.
There's quite a lot of yellowish cherry around. I found some of it. It doesn't look ruby red at all until it ages. It's sort of yellow when it's fairly fresh.
On Tuesday, I had an opportunity to get some copper beech, and I haven't had a chance to really look at to work with it yet. But I suppose the reason it's called copper beech is because of the color of the wood, I would guess. And I'm wondering if copper and cherry sort of have some similar characteristics.
Maybe so. Anybody know?
No.
no. Any way of getting a piece of cherry to go beside your copper beech to show us?
Not offhand.
Oh.
Does the walnut oil tend to change the color of the wood when you apply it?
Well, I kind of think, and I'm not an expert at it, I kind of think the Mahoney's does a little bit more than I use the Doctors on this particular piece. I kind of think it doesn't affect the natural color. It just pops the grain a little bit, without changing the color. And I kind of like this one a little bit better. I like them both, but I got a new bottle of this, and wanted to try it out again. I've used it before.
Thank you.
More questions for Dave? Okay, thank you, Dave. Let's see who's next. Bowman, what do you got?
Hey, do any of you guys have trouble with termites in your shop?
Nope.
I'm talking about this kind of termite. Do
No.
you know what this tool is? I guess some of you guys would call it a ring tool. It's a
Termite.
one-way tool called the termite. Supposed to be the tool for end grain turning. It is one bear to work with. If you get it right, it does a very nice cut. But getting it right, I had a piece of end grain that came off that cherry tree that I was watched being cut down last week. So I whipped out my termite, which I had bought a while ago, and started on that bowl. I soon went back to some more traditional, but I had a bad catch. So I used this to take it out of the bottom because I had a lot of room to go. It's not bad. But I wouldn't brag about it. I probably wouldn't buy it again. But you know, you buy something to put in your rack and never use again. Has anybody else?
Jim, I've used that termite a lot.
Do
and
you?
The problem, oh yeah, Pete, the problem is that you have to have that ring almost vertically. If I take my finger this way, you have to have it almost entirely vertical and then a very slight angle on that. And if you do that, and it's on the center line, it does make a very smooth cut, but it mostly works on end grain. So I only use it really on the inside of a box or something like that, or the inside of a bowl on the end grain. Yeah. Because it's almost like it works almost like a skew cut on the inside of a bowl. That's what because you got almost that vertical cut. That's why you get such a wonderful cut.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I just got one the other day, and what I found is, and I just used it just a little bit. You just can't be too aggressive with it. You've got to go pretty light with it.
Yeah. If you want to hog out a bowl, don't use this. You'll be at it for half an hour just getting the bowl down.
I don't agree with that, Jim. I have a hook tool very similar to that, and I can open up a end grain real quick with it. It's the right angle, like Doug says. It'll really pull the wood out.
Wait a minute. Ron, you know how to use an old style hook tool?
Yeah.
Why don't you show us that sometime? I'll come over and shoot a video of you.
I'd love to know that because I got a hand one and I haven't been able to get to use it. So I bought this termite. I thought it might be better. The termite tool's got a couple things. You put it, according to them, you put it over, it's almost like a carbide scraper. You have to put it over the tool rest a lot further than we're used to doing. I mean, almost that much, you know.
Yeah.
And then they have these set screws to hold the tip in because you can change them. And the set screws have to be ground flash because you can't rotate the tool. It's funny, in the instructions they say, if you can see the floor through the tool, you're going to have big problem or something like that. And they're absolutely right. Like Doug's saying, you gotta approach almost at a 1 o'clock angle. And you know when you got it right because you get this lovely flow that's coming out the point. Doug, you may have to show me. I'll keep trying at it, but boy, I tell you, it scared me a couple times. But here was the bowl I was working on. It's nothing elaborate or anything, but this is the first time I think I turned an end grain, and it dawned on me, end grain. Of course, you're going to see the growth rings in there. It's kind of neat. The problem when you're, in my book, the problem when you're turning end grain is you could end up having, if it's a branch, you have the sapwood all around it. Well, that's just going to be problematic. So I turned it down until I just had a little for decorations. One other thing, this is still very wet, and I want to take another 1/4 inch off the bottom. It's kind of a heavy bottom bowl. What do you guys put on? I'm gonna leave it wet. I may stick it in the microwave. I'm not a guy that's patient once I make it. I want it dry. But what do you put on your, what finish to use for wet turn bowls? I usually finish them.
Dry it first.
Yeah, okay. I like it to do its thing. Now, one last thing. I think this is the last thing. As a starting turner or getting back in years ago, I had smaller, cheaper lathes, which had 5/8 inch tool holders. Well, now I have this professional Nova that has a 1-inch holder. But I had a bunch of these shaped ones for bowls. So I literally went to 4 stores. I started at Lowe's, went to Home Depot, went to Harbor Freight, ended up at Tractor Supply trying to find the bushings. Doggone it, I pulled the drawer out, right there it was. A 3/4 to 1 inch, and right next to it a 5/8 to 3/4. So I drove those 2 bushings in, and now they sit right in my, the only bite is you kind of gotta put this where you want your chisel at the right height. You can't keep sliding it up and down much. You can slide it up, you can't slide it down.
So what are those bushings ordinarily sold for?
It's $1 or $2. I mean, seriously, it's only
what's their purpose? Why are they selling them? What do they use them for?
Oh, I think they're for like machinery and stuff. If you need a spacer, matter of fact, Amazon lists these, but they didn't have them or something. And I wanted them. I didn't want to wait. I want to make sure I had the right one. Yeah, they're not.
They're common bushings for shafts and stuff like that, where you don't need a ball bearing, like it's a soft ball bearing shaft, so that you can put a little bit of oil in them. John,
yeah, it's a bronze bearing.
Exactly.
It basically is. Yeah, it works well. I'm very pleased. Yep. Well, that's my spiel.
Okay.
And for the folks,
get rid of the termite.
For the folks who live in Lancaster County, Paul B. Hardware, they've got tons of that type of stuff.
Oh, Paul B's. Yes, indeed. But I don't live there anymore.
Zimmerman also. Zimmerman's has tons of that kind of stuff too.
On the termite tool, if you go to the president of the AWGB, Paul Hannity, does an excellent, he does goblets with that termite tool. And I'll tell you, I had one in my shop for 15 years before I threatened to stick it down the end of something. But he really makes it look good and tells you how to do it and sharpen it and everything else. He's got probably a YouTube too, but
can you send me a link to that, please, Jim, so I can put it out?
Well, you think I know how to do that, huh?
Well, I mean, just send me an email telling me what the guy's name is, because I didn't get it when you said it.
You got Paul Hannity.
I would appreciate that. I would appreciate that.
Paul Hannity is the president of the AWGB this year.
Hannity. Okay.
Paul Hannity.
I'll
get it to you. If I get cut off, they're putting in new cable in right in my yard right now. So if I disappear, you'll know what happened.
Well, you're on that. So let's go. Let's look at what you got before you.
Oh, you want to see? Okay. I got a glass sphere that they're gorgeous. They got all kinds of, it looks like seawater or something. But anyway, I wanted to display it. So I made a stand. And when I got it all done, I thought it'd be nice if I had light through it. So I set this up on the table saw and ran it through the table saw and cut deep enough. Damn, I can't make my finger go on the right side. Cut deep enough to make that. I got another one here I can show. This one, that one, the thing's glued in there, but this one, when you cut it square, anyway, it shows light through it. And I thought that's kind of a neat effect for some things. I'd like to show that, but
why did you make the socket where the ball goes in a square piece? Why not make it in a round piece?
That's too easy. Right?
Would look better.
Well, then it doesn't work on the table saw at all. This I can run this through the table saw and cut and make that slot anything I want. So I can actually take this down to just a damn, I can't make my finger do this, to a very small point on here. It kind of decorates it. I don't know. You could then turn it around if you wanted it, but it works great if it's a perfect square. Then when you run it through the table saw, you get perfect openings in here.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So did you turn it first and then put it onto table saw? Is it just one piece, or is it made up of 3 pieces?
Oh no, it's one piece. No, it's one piece of wood. It's a square piece. I don't know, 2.5 inches square.
Mm-hmm.
And I centered. I grabbed this and turned the socket here. No, first I turned the center, and this is actually turned. This actually would have come right up to maybe here. This would come right across here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned the socket in the side of here. And I thought that's kind of neat, but you couldn't see through here. Yeah, I can't show it, but you couldn't see through. I wanted light to come through here.
Mm-hmm.
So then I set the whole thing on the table saw and start out here and just keep setting the fence closer until you take that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
All
nice.
right. Thank you.
Yeah. And then
questions for Jim?
I have one more. I made a bullet box. Some people love these, some people wouldn't have one, but anyway, it's kind of neat. This started, I went to Fort Fisher in the North Carolina outer islands. And that's when they invented projectiles. They went from cannonballs to projectiles. When you shoot a cannonball, even though it weighed 1,000 pounds, when it hit something, it had a great big surface area. Somebody in England figured out that if you made a projectile, when this hit, you had all of this behind it. And that's what did away with brick forts and wooden ships and that sort of thing. And then they figured out to spiral it. That's another story, but the original one spiraled at 60,000 RPM. A rifle bullet spirals at 250 to 300,000 RPM. And that's why when it goes by, it whirs. But anyway, that made it real accurate.
Fortunately, you can hear it when it goes by you. Is that right?
Yeah. If you didn't hear it, it means you don't have any ears. Yeah. This is 42 millimeter. Anyway, lots of fun. Makes it kind of a neat box.
Questions for Jim? Or comments on the work? Okay, thank you, Jim.
I'm surprised you didn't make that bullet a kaleidoscope.
Never mind.
Well, since you're talking, why don't you show us what you got over there? Do you want to bring it over here and we'll spotlight this camera?
Yeah, I can.
Harry's got some stuff here, so I'm going to put him on the spotlight now.
Hey, Jim, you can make salt and pepper grinders out of that bullet.
The first thing I had is my first attempt at last week here. I showed a little. It's not really a.
Move in a bit.
It's not really a device, but it was a. Kai made the comment on adding sandpaper to it. The idea is on turning plates. If it doesn't have to be thicker than 3/4 of an inch or whatever stock you buy. This was I made a device so you could get the entire thickness of the wood without any sacrifice normally associated with turning a a grip on the bottom or screw holes for a faceplate or something. Anyhow, I have simplified the device. It does not require sandpaper, just the screw worm, which was a second piece of advice. The wood worm, just screwing it onto that with a sacrificial hot glued mount to the bottom, just tightening it. That was as tight as it would go. It didn't require any kind of anti-friction means. And it turned out pretty nice. I want to do a set of dinner plate chargers. That'll be about 14.5 inches in diameter, using this technique on either ash or red oak, and then try and do a colored rim.
Very nice. Very nice display. Good technique too. Next time, will you bring us back the jig and show us the chuck and show us how it is?
Yeah, there's not much to it anymore.
I
It's
know.
been so stripped down. I took away what it. The big solution for me was I bought a pair of number 3 jaws for my stronghold. The jaws I had were so small in diameter, they were the ones that come with the stronghold, that I didn't feel it offered enough base stability to avoid shattering when I turned it. But these number 3 jaws go up to like 5 inches in diameter, and just resting the plate, the piece of wood, with a hot glued blank on the back, a 3/4 inch thick hot glued blank that I had pre-drilled for the woodworm, and just screwed it on. And then after I had turned the face, I just again took a block of wood, put masking tape on, glued a block of wood on with hot glue, and bored for the root diameter for the woodworm. Took it off, reversed it, and put it on. So there was no mark in the wood, and no wood thickness lost, and it didn't chatter. It didn't sing. There was some chatter, but it didn't produce any kind of pattern on the wood.
I still bet I can do all that with a jam chuck, and I think maybe this week I'm going to try it.
And then I'll say to you, how about making it a 1/4 inch diameter smaller?
Yeah, well, there you go.
And you have to make a new smaller jam chuck. What kind of grain filler do you use for porous woods like red oak, for example? Do any of you guys have a particular finish you use for that?
Paste wood filler.
What do you call it?
Paste wood filler. It's expensive. It costs about the same as saffron. I use it all the time, and it fills it in really, really nicely. I rub it in with a credit card or finger, let it dry and sand it. Can't see it. It takes stains exactly like the oak.
That's the same stuff they would use on hardwood floors, I think.
Yeah, my dad used to use it by the gallon, building houses, but wow, the price has really skyrocketed. It's thicker, you can thin it. Comes in this container that's $15. It's about 2 inches tall and has a false bottom in it. But it's good. It lasts a long time.
What brand? I think last week Dave Dello, wasn't it you, Dave, that did the that blue platter?
I had a blue bowl, yes.
Oh, okay.
That was a sycamore bowl. And that was just a spirit stain. Were you talking about did you mean about the kiwi wax or kiwi shoe polish deal?
Yeah, I've seen if you go ahead and do it the color, dye the wood or some means of not filling the pores on the ash or the red oak.
Yeah.
If you dye it and then put maybe the lightest you can satin finish on it, and you can then take shoe polish or crayons actually.
Yeah.
And scribble color the pores. When you polish it out, you have like brilliant yellow pores against a cobalt rim, and it gets a dramatic effect, in theory at least.
if you want to fill pores, use Gilder wax, and they come lots of different colors. And then in 24 hours, it dries very hard. I like bronze, but I have golds and silvers and reds. On it just gives it a sheen. You just rub it in with your finger, and then with a paper towel, take it off the top, and it fills all those pores on oaks beautifully.
And does it wipe off on the surface where you don't want it pretty readily?
Yeah, if you very quickly.
Our member Scott Royer uses a lot of that stuff and is quite expert with it.
I asked because I picked this up at one of the box stores. It's DAPS.
Got it.
It's DAPS premium wood filler. It says it's good for repairing, but also grain filling. I wondered. I just wondered whether that's going to work. I haven't
think
tried
it is.
it yet.
I give it a try. I bet it will.
Okay.
Jim, the stuff you're holding there, I believe, is white. And so any pigment you add to it, you're going to get a pastel version of the color.
Yeah.
Whereas there is a clear acrylic wood filler. You can get it from Amazon. I have a jar at home. And when you add dye to it, it doesn't become a pastel. It takes on the natural color of the dye.
If you were just finishing natural, say with rub-on poly, would this work, you think? Or will it have a coloration or something in the pores?
I have on oak and sassafras, I have taken what you have in your hand and added liquid pigment to it. But like I say, if you add, say, red, you're going to get a pink filler.
Yeah.
If you add yellow, you're going to get a cream color. It's a very pastel.
Okay.
The gypsum or whatever is in that filler tends to dominate the color.
Okay.
I think, Jim, that you need to go and try it and report it back to the club as how successful it was. Do a video. You know, that way the rest of us don't have to experiment with it.
That's the way to go. That's what this is all about.
Actually, this is for a friend who's building a table with red oak, and he's a beginner. And I said, you need to fill it, but I couldn't find a decent filler for the wood. So I told him to keep a couple cutoffs and we'll try it. So
let's see. I got a bunch of raised hands here. Are you guys still got questions? Dello, you good?
I was going to ask a question about the termite tool, and if anybody, since we were on that topic, I was wondering if anyone ever went to the hunter tool, like the Osprey that I'm showing.
Yes.
John Lewis.
Yeah, I have that, and it's a very good tool, but it's really easy to trash the cutters.
Yeah, this has become my. Jim has this termite tool that he never uses. This is one that I just don't use very much. I was just curious if anybody else was using this. I don't do that much end grain work.
I don't use it very often, but it does work pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duxbury, you still got your hand up? You got more to say?
Yeah, you were kidding about making a projectile into a kaleidoscope, but this is a rocket kaleidoscope that I turned. This could be a bullet with a projectile turned. This is a turned cast clear acrylic polished, so you're actually looking through that thing. But you could make it.
That's fun.
Anyway.
Kai, you had your hand up. You still got a question, or are you good?
No, I'm good. Fine. Thanks.
Okay. I think Brubaker's next, right?
Could be. I can't find the hand wave button.
Well, okay, it's down in the reactions tab, but I got you spotlighted now, so you're on.
Okay, all right. was it Barry who asked if I had a piece of cherry to compare with the copper beech?
Yeah.
I happened to have one. However, let's see, but we get the.
That's good. That's good.
That's the cherry, and this is the copper beech. Now, however, this was fresh cut 2 days ago, and this has been around for about 8 years, and this has a finish on it, and this doesn't. So I'm not sure how you make a comparison, but the bark on the copper beech does look much more like beech than.
Yeah, bring it over closer to your, come over closer to your face with it so we can see it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the bark, and it looks much more like beech than, it doesn't look like cherry at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the color.
But the color's similar.
Yeah, the color could be mistaken for cherry.
Well, what's, if that's beech, does it have prominent ray fleck?
Yes.
I mean, the beech I've worked with always has very prominent ray cells that show up in much more than they do in cherry or maple.
Okay, as I say, I haven't started working with this yet, so I don't know what's in there.
Well, when you find out, let us know.
Yeah. The other I thought I would show is the cherry, not because it's anything totally unique about it, other than the fact that it was one of the first pieces I ever turned. And,
now, what did you make that shape for? What did you think you were making? A spittoon?
I don't know. I just liked the shape.
Okay.
It looked good. It felt good, and it reminds me of an Indian clay pot.
And how thick are the walls down in there?
Well, maybe 1/4 inch, somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2.
So you really got down in there and followed that outside shape on the inside. Is that right?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
For what I could reach with the tools that I had at the time. So I think 2013, I turned this.
Good start. Was that a price tag on the bottom that I saw when you turned it over?
Yeah.
What were you going to ask for that?
I was going to ask $90. I have learned that I no longer take this to shows. I have learned that I can take a piece to a show and put a high price tag on it if it's something I would rather have for myself. And that doesn't always work. Sometimes things sell for a higher price than you think anybody would, in their right mind, would offer for it. But I've had to sell some 2 pieces that I can think of that somebody else wanted it worse than I did.
My wife worked in the high-end art business for many years, and her rule of thumb is, if you got it on the floor and it don't sell for a while, raise the price and it'll probably sell.
I had a segmented bowl. In fact, there's one that I had showed here before, a segmented bowl that I called my Rebel bowl. And I said, every bowl has its story. And I wish I had the picture here to set it to show of a woman and her, I assume it was her daughter, dressed with piercings everywhere. She had bare skin, and told the story about the naughty bowl or the rebel bowl, and her daughter, I think it was her daughter, stood by her side with a grin on her face. This woman, the story must have touched her, because she was willing to pay the $250 that I was asking for it. And so she got the bowl, I got the $250. But now I regret having taken it to the show.
Yeah, if you don't want to sell it, don't put a price on it.
Yeah. In fact,
I've got a whole room full of those now. I got to do something.
yeah, that's what got me into the doing shows in the first place. I had about 30 or 40 bowls sitting around the house. My wife says, "Can't use all these. Got to find some way to liquidate them."
That's right.
Well, guys, we've come to the end of the hour. Thank you all for your sterling contributions today. It's, as usual, a fun hour. I'll have the video up either before next week's announcement or else with next week's announcement, depending on how my week goes. My daughter's visiting me, so I have my attention on her rather than on these videos for a little bit. And thank you all. It's been a great ride here today and every other week, too.
Thank you, John.